Welcome to our podcast on abundance. Today we're going to explore what it means to live an abundant life and how you can cultivate abundance in your own world. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start off with the idea that abundance is all around us, even when it feels like it's not. Sometimes we get so caught up in what we don't have that we forget to appreciate what we already have. Does it ever happen to you? So I want to encourage you to take a step back and look at your life from a different perspective. Think about the people who support you, the opportunities you've had, and the experiences that have shaped you into the person that you are today. Those are all forms of abundance that can enrich your life in meaningful ways. Yes. So one of the things that I see is an example. I'll give you an example. So some years ago, my husband and I were starting a business, and we really hadn't gotten our footing yet, and I was looking for a job to help to supplement the income until we get the business, going a little bit better. And I really didn't even ask anyone to tell me, if they had something available. What happened was, in church, I was working with a young lady, who was working for a corporation. And we were just in general talking about some of the things we both were doing in life. And she offered to connect me with somebody in the location that she worked. So that's what happened. She connected me with one of the people that she knew. And it turns out that I was able to get an interview just on her say-so, just because she had a good reputation with the company. And once I got that interview, I was able to get hired. Now, the thing about it is that I was only going to stay there probably maybe about a year. That's how I thought. But I enjoyed the job so much, everything worked out so well, that I ended up staying there for 7 years. And the experiences that I got, the things that I learned have helped me along the way in terms of our business. And that, I would say, is abundance, because without even pushing for it, without looking for a job, back in the day, I guess you look at the newspaper. Of course, you don't do that now. But I didn't have to do anything. I was actually sitting beside someone in church, and we just happened to be talking about things in general. And that's how I got connected with that particular job. Had another situation where I was wanting to work in terms of music. And my husband was a musician, great musician, guitarist. I'm a singer, and I play the keyboard. And what we wanted to do, we wanted to create a band in the Atlanta area. And we needed a location, so that we could be there on a regular basis. And there were a lot of things we needed to kind of put together. But as it turns out, a friend of ours had a restaurant in Stone Mountain, and she offered to allow us to be there. I think it was once a month. I believe it was like the third Friday every month. And from there, we found musicians. We did some rehearsals there, but then we started actually doing shows. And from being there, we met a young lady who had worked for Tyler Perry. She worked for Sony Records. She had done so many things in terms of the music industry. I didn't know her. I didn't know she was going to be there. So the very first night that we played, she wanted to talk with myself because I was the manager of the band. And from that point on, the knowledge that she had helped me, because just to say this, I had nothing in terms of background about managing a band. I knew I loved music and I was involved in music, but I had never managed a band. But some of the things that I learned from the previous job that I was talking about in corporate America. There were so many things that I learned from that, and then adding that to the lady that I met at the restaurant, the venue where we were playing, that just made us go far. And we made a lot of money together. We ended up meeting a lot of different people over the years, and it ended up being abundant in terms of the experiences that we have. And I still have a lot of friends that I've met during that time. So the band, we started the band back in 2013, and it expanded where people would see us play there, and they would definitely want to hire us for other things, other gigs. Then we got a 1-year contract with a location downtown, right near the Fox, and we were there every Friday for about, I think, a little bit over a year and a half. My point in saying all this, abundance is all around us, and God will bless you in terms of, if He gives you an idea or a vision, He gives you the provision to make it happen. So I have many examples that I can talk about, but I'm sure you have some as well, if you can think about the way that your life has gone and the way your life has been blessed. So, sometimes we get caught up in thinking about what we don't have, like I said, rather than appreciate what we already have. Sometimes we compare ourselves to others and we focus on our shortcomings. But what if we flip that script? What if we decided to focus on the good things in our lives, no matter how small they may seem? Yeah, I really think that's where the power is. The power of gratitude comes in. When we practice gratitude, we start to shift our perspective. We begin to see the world in a different way, and we start to appreciate the abundance that's already present in our lives. It's not about ignoring challenges. We're going to have challenges, but about acknowledging the good things that are often overlooked, right? So I'm hoping that this is kind of resonating with you as far as how we can look around our lives and just pinpoint the good things in our lives. Again, not overlooking the challenges, because we have to face those challenges and overcome those challenges. But our focus should be on the abundance and gratitude. Okay? So abundance is not just about material wealth. It's about the richness of our experiences, the depth of our relationships, the deepness of our relationships, and the growth we experience as individuals. When we broaden our definition of abundance, we start to see opportunities and possibilities that we might otherwise have missed. So I'm going to give you another example. So I would say, I think I mentioned this in my previous podcast, episode 1, where I hadn't been feeling well back in November. And in terms of relationships, the abundance in our relationships, my brother, my daughter, and 2 of my grandchildren, they gave me such words of wisdom that put me in another space to make me appreciate, first of all, appreciate them, but then second of all, realizing that this too will pass. In other words, it's not going to stay. Whatever's going on, good or bad, is not going to stay forever. So that's what brought me back to where I was more balanced in the things that I needed to do. And really, that's another part of what made me want to start this podcast, because I feel like I have something to share that would encourage you, because people have encouraged me and kept me going in times when I didn't think that I could continue. So, like I say, abundance is not just material wealth. It's about the richness of our experiences, the deepness of our relationships, and the growth we experience as individuals. When we broaden our definition of abundance, we start to see opportunities and possibilities that we might otherwise have missed. So how many of you agree with me on that? If you agree, put in the comments that you agree, and maybe even give me an example of something that you've experienced where abundance is what helped you. When you recognize the abundance in your life, and that's what helped you get through something, okay? So I think it's really interesting to explore how a mindset around abundance can impact our lives. When we view abundance as something that's only external, we can start to feel like we're lacking or that we're not good enough. But what if we start to see abundance as a state of mind? What if we believe that we already have enough, that we're already worthy, and that we're already deserving of good things? What if we had that type of mindset? Be a lot of things that we could accomplish. Going back to my situation where I was managing the band. One of the ways we talked about that before we got started, it was my husband and a bass player and myself. And we were sitting down, we were talking about some of the things that we would like to do concerning music. And none of us had managed the band before. They have been musicians for years, and I have been a singer for a long time. But that's not the same as managing and being able to go out and find gigs, being able to write contracts, being able to negotiate contracts, and making certain that everybody gets paid, the way that they should be paid. Also making certain that our audience is served properly. Well, I had no idea what to do. But again, believing in myself, believing that God would not give me a vision without giving me the provision to make that vision happen. And again, people came into my life to help me. The person I mentioned that saw us playing at the venue, she became a lifelong coach for music. She recently passed away, but during the time that I worked with her, she was amazing. I could pick up the phone anytime and call her and ask her advice. She even put a group together where other musicians were there helping each other. She was an amazing person, and I will always remember her. But again, if I hadn't believed in myself and knew that God gives you the vision, gives you the provision, then I wouldn't have known that there was abundance all around me. So there were the lady that I'm speaking of, the young lady I'm speaking of, then my brother-in-law, he's in business, so she took care of the music part of it. He took care of the financial part of it in terms of being a consultant to me. So again, even today I can pick the phone up and ask him any question that I need to ask when it comes to business. Then of course my husband, master guitarist, he's been in music since he was in his teenage years. He played music in Africa. He was born and raised in Africa. He played music in Africa. He played music in Europe. He played music here in America. And he was the person that put the band together. We worked with artists that were from America, but we also had artists and musicians that were from Africa, from the Caribbean, and from other places in Europe. And many of us didn't really know the style of music that was beginning to play, which ended up being a lot of African music and some reggae as well. But my husband, being the person he was, he had a style of playing the guitar, and he had a knowledge of music that inspired all of us. And he put the band together to the point where we had gigs on a regular basis. It was like we just had gigs over and over and over and over. And it wasn't difficult because I also had a website that I put together for the band. I guess an EPK, which is an electronic press kit. I put that together. That drew more gigs to us as well. But my whole point is saying that the abundance that was around us made us successful. But we first had to know that we could be successful. So we had to know that we were enough, that we were worthy, and we just had to know that we could work together and make it successful. And that's what we actually did.